Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Alliances webinar series. My name is Christine Beck. I'm with the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, and we're excited that you could join us today, Thursday, February 21st, for Assistive Technology and Why It's Important, presented by Susie Woods of the Illinois Assistive Technology Program.
Morning, everybody.
So a little bit about who we are. The Alliance is a network of advocates, allies, and self-advocacy groups around Illinois. And the picture on your screen is from a couple of years ago, and it is some of the board of directors for the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. Our vision is for self-advocates to work together to get the support we need to live the life we want in the community. Our mission is to speak up for ourselves and each other while working together to make changes in our communities and in Illinois. Our focus is on empowering people to speak up and speak out about what they want and need, what they don't want and don't need, to action plan their goals, and to participate in advocacy at the personal, agency, community, and statewide levels. What we do a lot of different things. We support local groups. We work together on important issues. We offer networking, advocacy, and learning opportunities through our monthly newsletters, our webinars, our Alliance Ambassador Program, and our Training Institute. To share a little bit about where our member groups are, we're all over Illinois. I like to say no matter where you live or where you work, there's probably a self-advocate or a self-advocacy group near you. We have self-advocacy groups in Zion and McHenry. Our Chicago and Collier counties are well represented with Alsop, Brookfield, the City of Chicago, Chicago Heights, and Homewood. We also have self-advocacy groups in Dixon, Rock Island, Pontiac, and Galesburg. In Central Illinois, we have self-advocacy groups in Bloomington, Beardstown, Jacksonville, Decatur, Monticello, and in Southern Illinois, we have self-advocacy groups in Alton, Edwardsville, and Charleston. If you're interested in learning more about becoming a self-advocacy group with the Alliance, you can go to our website and we'll share that contact information later on in the webinar. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that all attendees are in listen-only mode. If you need to communicate with myself as the facilitator or Susie Woods, you can do so typing in using your control panel. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Alliance's Facebook page as well as on our website for your viewing pleasure 24/7. And with that, meet the presenter, Susie Woods.
Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be doing this webinar and having you all listen to what I have to share about assistive technology. I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. I work for the Illinois Assistive Technology Program, and I do education and policy. And I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren, and my son has a developmental disability. So I've been involved in disability issues and trying to change things at the Capitol and legislative level for a very long time. So welcome, everybody.
Well, and Susie, as you say that you're trying to make changes, it really does remind me that we're all in this together, and we are a lot stronger when we're working together.
We are. We're much better when there's more than one of us raising our voices and making noise. And let me share really quickly my story that will tell you what happened to me. When my son was 10 years old, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. and we were having a very hard time finding where he was going to go to school. We lived in Carlinville, and they were busing him over 100 miles a day, and he was getting very sick on the bus. He went to a hearing impaired program, and I was a young, crazed mom. I didn't know what to do, and we'd had 4 IEPs, so I wrote a letter to Barbara Bush, who was the first lady, just my little sad letter, because I didn't believe in going through the channels evidently at that time in my life, but she called our house, Barbara herself, and said, what can I do to help you? And I said, I just don't want him bust out of Carlinville. And he was never bust out again. But what that taught me was we all have voices. Each of you has a voice. So raise your voice, call people, write letters about the things that are important in your life that need changes. But it also taught me that that's why we have to change things at the legislative level, because no other child in Carlinville was brought back. So I'm going to talk today about assistive technology and what it does to make all of us more independent. Okay, in 1998, probably many of you were not born yet then, maybe a few of you were, the AT Act of 1998, the first act actually passed in 1988, but in 1998 it was changed to the Assistive Technology Act. And assistive technology is a product, a device, or equipment. It could be commercially modified or customized that is used to maintain, increase, or improve the functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. And what that means is it can be anything you need to make your life better and make you more independent. There's 3 levels of assistive technology. There's low tech, because people think about assistive technology many times and they think, oh my God, it's this really expensive stuff, but that's not always true. It's low tech. It could be just a big pencil that helps you write, or a fat notebook that brings material closer to you. I was at somebody's house one day who had cerebral palsy and was a chair user, and I went into her bathroom, and she had taken tennis balls and put them on her faucets because they were easier for her to grab. That's low tech technology. Medium tech is like a time timer that will count down time, or an Alpha Smart simple word processor. It's a little higher up than just low tech, but it's not at that level of high tech. And high tech is something like an augmentative communication device, a talker that helps you talk, a motorized wheelchair, an accessible van. Who uses assistive technology? Well, we always think first about people with disabilities, and they do, and that's both people born with a disability and those who acquire a disability. And the other group that uses this are seniors, because it helps them live independently. They often don't see themselves as having a disability, but they do need help to be independent. And we have many, many seniors that come into our office, and many, many seniors that borrow things to help them at home. It's interesting. When I first started doing the policy end of stuff, which was in 2005, none of the senior groups would even work with the disability groups, because they'd say to us, we don't have disabilities except for dementia. That's the only disability we ever get. And I would say to them, what is the difference if you need a cane or a wheelchair, whether you're 7 and need it or you're 77? The need is still there. And then they started to come around, and now they work very closely with us. So I always like to keep this in mind. Disability is the only minority group you can join at any time. You can be born with a disability like my son was. You can acquire one through an illness or an accident, or it's just part of getting older. I have rheumatoid arthritis, which has gotten worse as I've gotten older, and so I'm now a cane user. And this is just a few pictures of some people that are tech users. The one in the middle is our wonderful Senator Tammy Duckworth, who, as you all know, lost her legs when she served her country. And she has the orthotic legs, and then she uses a cane to get around. The only accommodation she asked for when she went to DC, they gave her a first floor office because it was easier for her to get around from that than it was.
And the person on the far left is Stephen Hawking, a very famous physicist who showed everybody that you can be an expert in what you do and have a disability. And on the far right is Illinois' own Lester Pritchard, who showed us that if you put your mind to it, you could do just about anything.
Lester was a great friend of mine. He and I did Partners in Policy Making together in the 90s, and he always brought 3 pounds of licorice to Partners and ate all 3 pounds.
All right. I like licorice. I like that.
Okay. Assistive technology is important for independence. It gives equal access to things that might be impossible to access otherwise, such as living in your own home, going to school or work, and being successful at school or work. And some examples, jar openers. I've had to get a jar opener since I've had this trouble with my spine, and it's been wonderful. Long handle grabbers so you can get things. Medicine reminders. Dragon Naturally Speaking for writing, where you can dictate into your computer or your phone and it will type what you're saying. And screen readers. I always get a chuckle. About 4 years ago, they started to advertise Dragon Naturally Speaking as a great Christmas gift for busy executives.
Busy executives need assistive technology too.
That's right. And then this is just some types of assistive technology, like a large display on your computer. Everybody laughs at me at my church because I have the Bible downloaded onto my phone, and it's in the hugest print. You can see it from across the room. And I said, see, anybody that doesn't have this, I'll hold it up for you. Adaptive keyboards. There are all kinds of keyboards for people to use. We have keyboards, left-handed keyboards for somebody who's lost their right hand and they only can use their left hand. Everything, alternative mice, speech to text, which we talked about, mobile and iPad apps that you can download on your phone, augmentative communication, which are the talkers for people, visual aids, things you could see, and zooming tools, and hearing aids and adaptive listening. It's interesting, the work I do in the school with the FM systems, because it used to be for kids who were hard of hearing. Now we found the kids that are ADD benefit very much for them because it's like the teacher's talking directly to them. And all these things together give people equal access.
So this is an opportunity for you to speak up and speak out and get involved in this webinar. So I am going to put this question out to you and put a poll up on your screen. And the question is this: do you know anyone who uses assistive technology? Do you know anyone who uses assistive technology? And using your control panel, you're going to see it pop up. You're either going to click yes or no. So let's see. Do you know anyone who uses assistive technology? And so we can see that many of you are voting. Perhaps some of you still are talking about it, especially if you're in a large group. Do you know anyone who uses assistive technology? All right, folks are voting.
Keep in mind that assistive technology is not just those big, like the text to speech or the on-com devices. It's something as simple as a different kind of pencil or crayon.
And what you mentioned, timers. You can set alarms on your phone that remind you when to take medications or when to do different things that you need to do in order to be successful.
And I worked with a family where the young man had a job and they were going to fire him because he was late every day coming back from break. And so we would put a timer on his phone that set the alarm every day after his 15 minutes of break. And so it buzzed 2 minutes before he had to be back. And that solved the problem. He didn't lose his job and he was on time.
All right. Well, it looks like the majority of you do know people who use assistive technology. And in fact, one person on our webinar, Melissa Sands, says, I helped to run the assistive technology committee at work. So how awesome that there are agencies and organizations out there that have assistive technology committees to help everyone to be successful.
And Melissa, my email is on this at the end of this webinar. I'd love for you to email me and hook up with me because I'd love to hear about that.
All right. So here's the next question, another opportunity to speak up and speak out. You personally, do you use assistive technology? We're not going to ask for your name, but you heard what Susie had to say about assistive technology. You saw some of the examples. So do you use assistive technology? We're going to go ahead and launch that poll. And Melissa says, yeah, she is going to connect with you.
Thank you, Melissa.
So sometimes part of having webinars is learning with and from each other and connecting with each other. So we have quite a few assistive technology users out there. Looks like more yeses than nos at this point. I appreciate people being willing to speak up and speak out and share if you do use it or don't use it. And like Susie said, disability can be part of the aging process, and the likelihood is we're all going to need to use some type of assistive technology in our lifetime. All right, the votes keep on rolling in. I'll give you just a couple more seconds. Right now, we're at 60% of you say, yes, I use assistive technology, and 40% say, no, I don't. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll because we have a lot more great information. But the majority of folks who are participating in this webinar, they do use assistive technology. So thank you so much for sharing.
Assistive technology is important for empowerment. And by empowerment, I mean being in charge of your own life, making your own decisions. So you make your own decisions about what you want, what you need, what you desire, instead of letting other people make the decision for you. And this gives you control over all parts of your life, your education, your work, your social life, mobility, transportation, recreation, and daily living. Before I came to IETP, I was director of disability services at our local college, which is the University of Illinois at Springfield. And I worked with a lot of students who had disabilities, and we had to encourage them to be empowered and be in control of what they were doing and what they wanted to do. People with disabilities can do things they weren't able to do at one time. It's a pathway to the future. People with disabilities have changed the way they think about themselves and their future, and society has changed the way they see people with disabilities. We're not where we want to be, but we've come a long way since my son was born in 1979. And the Americans with Disabilities Act was huge in the way it made things physically accessible to people with disabilities that didn't used to be physically accessible. A person with a physical disability might once have lived their whole lives at home with their family, or with a developmental disability. And with assistive technology, that person can now go to school, get an education, work, live independently, live in the community, get married, and have children. Not being able to communicate. I'm going to talk about how when you don't have assistive technology and you need it, how it can be frustrating. One thing is not being able to communicate with other people. Think what it's like if you can't communicate with people and not let them know what you want and what you're thinking. That could be very frustrating. And I see in my work in the schools how this often, if you're this frustrated, it leads to behaviors. They're very, very connected. You're isolated even when you're around other people, and you're not being self-empowered and making decisions for your own life. Self-empowerment comes with responsibilities. And here are the pros to self-empowerment. You make your own choices and your own decisions. You live according to your own personal values, not mine, yours. You lose your fear of living up to other people's expectations because you are designing your own life. And the negative to that, there's pros and cons to everything. The con is you can't blame others for your decisions. You make a decision and maybe it's not the best decision, but you learn from that. One of the things that gets me the craziest when I'm in schools is when they want to overprotect people with disabilities to the point that they're not allowed to try things.
We call that the dignity of risk,
Yeah,
allowing people to take their next one right step and figure out, is this going to be successful? Or if I'm not, what could I do differently next time?
and one of my biggest fights of all the fights I had with our school district when my son was in school is he wanted to take an ag class. Now, my son has an intellectual disability as well as many medical issues. And they said, Susie, what if he's not successful? Well, we were farmers, so I knew he could take an ag class and be good at it, and he was. And I said, never once have you called me when my daughter signs up for classes and say, do you think she should take these? So I said, how we learn by the mistakes we make many times. So we have to let people make mistakes. The dignity of risk. Yes.
Yes.
Who would benefit from people with assistive technology? It can be a support for many people. If you have an orthopedic disability, if you have a vision issue, hearing, intellectual, traumatic brain injury, deaf, blind, autism, an emotional disability. People don't often think about AT helping people with emotional disabilities, but there's many things out there, apps that are calming and all kinds of apps to help them. A speech disability, a specific learning disability. So almost anybody can benefit from some kind of assistive technology. And I think sometimes we use assistive technology and we don't even know we're using it, in our lives. Every state, I'm going to talk about our program specifically. Every state by law has to have a technology program. There are 56 of them, and 50 for the states, and then there's 6 for like Puerto Rico and those folks. And we are Illinois' program. We're located in Springfield, but we're statewide. I travel for my job, and I travel almost every day to somewhere in the state. So I go all the way north to all the way downstate. And I'm chuckling at your thing about where the Alliance is downstate. Alton is not really downstate.
I understand.
Alton is the tip of downstate. So
there's a lot more downstate under Alton, Edwardsville, and Charleston.
That's right. Yes. IETP's mission is to educate and train people on assistive technology and help them discover what works for you. And our motto is independence through technology.
And I included some pictures here. So if you are ever visiting the Illinois Assistive Technology Program, sometimes having a visual of, oh, okay, that's the building I'm looking for. So you don't do a drive-by a bunch of times. A picture's worth 1,000 words.
That's right. And we're interested because most of the programs in the other states are hooked on to like a university or a hospital or somewhere like that. And our money flows through Department of Rehabilitation Services, but we have always been a separate entity. I'm going to go through what we have here. We have a demonstration center. If you will walk in that front door, and we have 8 rooms there. We have a kitchen and a bathroom and an office and playroom, sensory room, and you can walk through, pick up those devices. We have a ball pit in our sensory room, which for those of you who are a little germophobic, we clean all the time. And I'm looking to see when I say that. And we have had a couple of people come in. One woman who was in her 60s, who was a chair user, never had been in a ball pit before and wanted to get in it so bad, and we helped her in it.
Oh,
and
awesome.
She had the loveliest time in that ball pit.
So there you go. You need an adult play day? Come on out and check out the ball pit.
And also in the demonstration center, we have a talking pill bottle that would tell you when you need to take your medicine. Some of the pharmacies, you have to have a pharmacy that has the capacity to put that label on.
Okay.
But some of them do. A BP football, if you're vision impaired and want to play football. Mm-hmm. A Hoyer lift, if you need help getting in the bathtub or in bed. Bath seat. Many all-calm devices. A device that tells you the color of your shirt. I think every man in the world probably needs this. where you hold it up to the shirt and it will say black or blue. So you're not wearing green pants and a red shirt. We have a talking microwave. We have measuring cups that help you cook. We have sensory toys and much, much more.
So here's some pictures, and Susie will describe these pictures, but just to give you a sense of what you could come and experience here at IATP.
The first picture on your left is our kitchen, and it's completely accessible. And the interesting thing is stuff that we have there tends to be pricey, but there are a couple of those items that you can get at Walmart for much less.
Nice.
And the other picture on your right, on my right at least, is our computer room that has all kinds of computers, all kinds of different uh, fonts and keyboards and all that kind of stuff. And then the one on the bottom is our playroom, our sensory room. And we have some parents that just bring their kids in and ask if they can stay for a little while and look at things. We never forget about the kids because we have a lot of sensory toys and sensory vests and things like that. And that's really important. Play is how kids learn.
That's how we experience the world.
So we're proud to show off the demonstration center and hope you can come visit. If you can't come during the week, call me. We can open up for the weekend if you want to come. You have to see it to believe it. At the very bottom, I put Minnie Pearl's picture. A lot of you may not even know who she was, but she was a famous comedian, country western comedian for years. She always had the price of her hat on her hat. The price of her hat on her hat. And she used to say, y'all come. And that's what we say about the demonstration center.
All right. I'm going to open this up. Wendy, did you have a question? Wendy, if you have a question, go ahead and use your control panel to type it in. I see that you've raised your hand. We'd love to hear your question and answer it, or your comment or contribution.
Okay, the next thing we offer device loan. You can borrow from the device loan inventory. You can try out the devices before buying them, which we really suggest. You can borrow up to 5 weeks and sometimes longer if there isn't a waiting list for the item. All of this is on our website. If you go to the website, there's a link to this. And there may be a charge to send the item back to IATP, but if you have borrowed something and can't afford it, send it back and let them know, and we will pay for it, because we don't ever want anybody never to not borrow because of the not being able to pay.
All right. And we do have a question from Livingston County Advocates in Action. They're one of our member groups in Pontiac, Illinois. What are the hours of the demo center?
Oh, we're open from 8 to 4:30. But like I said, if you want to come and it's after hours, let me know, and either I or one of our staff will open this up for you, because we would love to have you come.
All right.
So some of the device loan items: vision, we have talking calculator with earbuds; hearing, a door announcer. That's something that lights up or buzzes if you're hearing impaired or deaf, and sometimes that's even really useful. A lot of seniors borrow this to try it out that have a hard time getting to the door, because then they could yell out,
Oh.
I'm here, I'm coming. For speech, we have the Dynavox Maestro, which is an on-com device. Learning, a reader pin. That is a great little tool for kids as they get older in school, because while you're taking notes, if you don't get everything, it sort of picks up what you don't get, because it's sort of recording the speaker.
Oh, neat.
And then you can download it to your computer and print it off. So it's very helpful. For mobility, we have a Jelly Bean switch, which is bigger and squishier. A lot of very young kids, as they're learning to use switches for their devices, use these because they're easier for the little hands. Daily living, adapt and cut scissors. These are scissors that you just touch and it'll cut for you. Interesting story. We had a bill last year on AT, and I went and did testimony at the Capitol, and I had brought some really high tech stuff to show them, 3 things, and I had the scissors. They didn't care a hoot about the high tech stuff. They wanted me to get those scissors out and pass them around. That was their big interest. So for environmental, we have a eye blink switch, where if you really can't use your hands, can't use any part of your body but your face, you blink your eyes and the switch will go off and on.
Interesting.
And for computers, we have left or right hand keyboards. And for recreation, we have Pudgy the Pig, who's posted there. And Pudgy the Pig is very squishy, and he walks and he makes noises, and kids love him.
I love them. That's why we included the picture.
That's right. Our reuse program. People don't donate items to this when they no longer need them, and we get them to people who might need them. We have a classified list that when people ask to be put on that, where they can be given away, sold, or traded, and we really don't have any direct connection with that, except we do post it. And then most items are given to us and they're free on a first come, first served basis. Some of the items we have are walkers, bath seats, computers, laptops, canes, wheelchairs, Hoyer lift, lazy boy chairs that lift you up and get, And then one time we did have an accessible van, and somebody had bought a new van and given us their old one. And the very same day, somebody called here. It was an older couple, and the man had severe Parkinson's. And the wife was worried about two things. How do I get him to the doctor, and how do I get him to church? Oh. And we got this van into their hands, and it was wonderful.
Wow. And we had another question. Someone didn't hear the ending times of the demo center.
4:30. But again, call me if that time doesn't work, and we will open up for you. If it's
all right. And you see the picture or some of the items that may be available through the reuse program.
Yes, and when I just had surgery a couple of weeks ago, and when I first had the surgery, I called Jane, who runs the program, and she ran me by a walker to use, for the first couple of days. We also offer training. We present workshops, staff development, and all kinds of training at conferences, all kinds of conferences. Or we can come to where you are and do some training if you want us to. We train on things like getting to know technology, making your own technology, text to speech, and accessible instructional material. Not all tech is high tech. Educational technology and the IEP, that's me, that's what I do. And how to fund technology. Because we try and figure out how you can get this funded without, especially if you're a student in school, because if there's no other way, the school has to fund it, but then it doesn't belong to you. So we want to find a way where it belongs to you. And when you borrow stuff from us, we call it a long-term loan, but it's yours for as long as you need it. Not from the demo center, but from the reuse center.
And I know as far as training goes, many self-advocates and allies attended your session at Speak Up and Speak Out last year. You and your granddaughter, yes, Isabella, talked about assistive technology, and people had a chance to try things, and then they made
we made the stress balls.
They made stress balls, yes. And I know for those of us who didn't go to that session, we were saying, "Where'd you get that? How'd you do that?"
And if you come here, we can make more stress balls for you.
Right.
And our people, this is not me because I'm a one-trick pony. I do policy and education, but they have learned how to make your own technology for things like switches and things like that. So it's so much cheaper.
Yes, and we will share the address and phone number and website and all Susie's contact information at the end of the webinar.
And please feel free to call me. My cell phone will be there. Use that. Okay, we also have a financial loan program. This is the only program where money is involved. You could apply for a loan to help with things like accessible things that are needed, like van accessibility, a wheelchair, hearing aids. You have to qualify because it's federal money, but rates are lower than a bank, and you have to have a 600 credit score, and you must pay the loan back. And this is the only program. This is one of our mandated programs. And because it's federal money, they're strict about it. We also offer evaluations. We have a grant from the State Board and from Rehab Services. So I'm using the royal we because I do not do this. They evaluate students in the school system to find out what AT would be beneficial for them. The grants from ISB, the Illinois State Board of Ed. And we have 3 speech therapists on staff who evaluate for the OnCom devices, and we have several others that go in if there's something else they need. We evaluate people going into the work system to see the type of equipment that would be beneficial to them in their workplace. and we have a grant from Division of Rehab. And we also evaluate people who want to be independent in their own homes to find out what might help them. And this is from the Home Services Rehab.
Right. So lots of great opportunities for evaluations to help people to be independent.
And we also offer IEP support. And this is me. This is what I do, and 504 support. And I work with families from early intervention to college. So any of those families. And we also have WIPA, which is the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance. And this is through Social Security.
Okay.
And they are housed with us, and they go in, they do a lot of help. If you have Social Security and you're trying to figure out, can I go to work, or what will happen to my Social Security, what will happen to my Medicaid. Medicaid sometimes is the biggest thing that stands in the way, because you don't want to lose that insured. So Ron Mulvaney runs that program, and he's wonderful at it.
And I know that those are some obstacles that people have experienced. They want to work more hours, earn more money, but they are worried about losing some of their benefits and entitlements.
And Ron can help you. He can look at what you have. He can look at where you're going and put together a plan to help you.
All right. Gotta have a plan, right? Awesome.
IATP is the best secret in town, we always say. We want to partner with you to help you learn about assistive technology, and we want to partner with you at whatever level you are. We want to work together with you to help you continue your growth in whatever path you're on. And we want to educate you about available services you may not know about. We are a free resource and here to serve you. That's the best thing about us. We are free.
Not only free, but fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Two great F words, I like to say.
Okay, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly. AT can make a huge difference in a person's life. It can help a person be independent and stay in their own home. It can give a person access to places and programs that wouldn't have been possible 10 or 15 years ago. And it can mean the difference between a person with a disability living in a nursing home or an institution or in the community. And I don't know about anybody on this call, but I would much rather live in my own home as long as I can. And so we work with a lot of people. We're partnering with the ARC right now, and the Alliance is involved with this with a grant to try and figure out why people with developmental disabilities are not working more. What can we do to change that? And so we are very involved with that.
Yes. Like we said in the beginning, we're a lot stronger when we work together and because we are working together.
Technology can be scary, especially when it's new and you don't know how to use it. It can be expensive and it can be a challenge to find funding for it. Not everybody knows how to support a person with assistive technology. That is a big key. If you are in a school or you are in a group home or wherever you are and you are using assistive technology, everybody who works with you needs to know how to use that so they can help you. And you know what? Here's the thing. We can come in and do training, and we will. Again, I'm using the royal we because it won't be me. And technology only works if a person wants to use it, but it can make such a difference in people's life. I had a student when I was out at UIS who had cerebral palsy, and she was difficult to understand. And she refused to use her Alcom device. She didn't like it. She refused. And she came to me one day and she was furious because the teacher didn't understand her. And I said, but you've got to use your device. I said, it's like if you were speaking Spanish and he didn't know Spanish, you would need somebody to interpret for you. And so finally she decided that maybe if she was going to get through college, she needed to use her own device.
Oh, but yeah, it only works if a person wants to use it and is willing to use it.
And you know, what we see is like a lot of times kids that have used technology for a very long time, especially if it's something noticeable, they get to be middle school and they don't want it anymore because they're afraid of standing out. So speak up for assistive technology. Technology is here to stay. It's your friend, so make it work for you. If you see someone who is using assistive technology, don't be afraid to ask friends to learn and to ask questions to learn more about it. We see, especially with kids who start to use an Alcom device very young in the schools, the kids are absolutely fascinated by it. And we always write into the IEP, it's okay for the other kids to touch it and to talk with them using that assistive technology. And it can open a whole new world in how we work with and support each other.
Well, I know many of you have seen by now the commercial that was previewed around the Super Bowl time. It was a young man who was gaming, and he was gaming with friends, and he used an assistive device so he could play this online video game. And he was getting ready to, break through to this new level, and everybody's there and they're cheering him on. And that was possible because of assistive technology. And that really, I think, can help show society and everyone else that, you know what, we can do it. We might need some assistive technology, but how cool is that?
And too, my niece on the side sells jewelry for a company, and I told her, I said, why are you not making this jewelry accessible for people who have physical or orthopedic disabilities, like the magnets for necklaces?
Yes.
And I said, if you don't know, if your company doesn't know how to do this, have them call me, because I could tell them. Because I said, I can't buy some of this because I can't get it on myself unless it's big enough to go over my head for a necklace. And
I was just going to say, if I can't get it over my head, I'm probably not going to wear it.
Right. And I said, there's a whole market out there that they're missing out on.
And people with disabilities want to be stylish.
And people with disabilities have money to spend like other people.
Yes.
So I always end with Dr. Seuss, but before I end, I wanted to just tell you one of my experiences. One time I went into a school. This has been probably 7 or 8 years ago now, and hopefully things have changed. And these were these were some of the things the teachers were saying. He wouldn't need this if he wasn't lazy. Why should we give him this? The other kids don't have this. And things like this. And assistive technology, what it's supposed to do is put us on a level playing ground with everybody else. Not higher, not lower, but level. So we can do what everybody else can do. So I always end with Dr. Seuss. Think left and think right, and think low and think high. Oh, the things you can think of if you only try. So thank you so much for being on this today. And I think we're going to have questions if anybody wants them.
We are. So if you have any questions, comments, or considerations that you would like to share with Susie, now's the time. Just type it in using your control panel. We'll read them out loud. Unless you put on there, please don't read out loud, and we'll honor that. But let us know what you thought. Let us know if you have any questions or comments, anything you'd like to add.
And my information and Christina's on this, so
yep,
so
it's coming up. It'll be coming up.
Yeah, and so feel free to contact us at any time. Anytime we could do for you. Any questions you have.
All right, so who's going to be the first with a question, comment, or a consideration? And as Susie said, she goes out and she helps people with individual educational plans, and she talks with teachers, and she helps support a lot of folks in the school system up through college. She is very busy. And so I am thrilled that we had the opportunity to sit down together today and for me to continue my learning journey on assistive technology. We all have much to learn. So again, who would like to type in using your control panel? Do you have a question, a comment, or a consideration that you'd like to share? And sometimes I wonder, if nobody's typing in, does that mean you shared everything that everybody could know?
Or maybe you need time to think about that, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. But I think we have to remember that assistive technology is our friend, and it can make such a difference in our life. And sometimes we use things that we don't even realize are assistive technology, to help us do different things in our life.
Well, I'll start with a question. I get to meet a lot of people, and it's always very exciting. So when I meet someone for the first time who uses assistive technology, and I might be curious about that, not knowing them or how they use it, what should I do? What should I say? How should I approach that new meeting, that new relationship.
Do you want to know about what they're going to say?
Yeah.
I just asked them about it. I would say to them, "Oh, I noticed you're using, this Alcon device. How does it help you?" And just questions like that, like you would say, "Oh, I noticed your scarf. It is so cute," Because
Okay.
I will tell you, I don't know if any of you know my good friend Ann Ford that passed away last year, but she was head of the Centers for Independent Living for many years, and she was a chair user. And she used to say the thing that really bothered her a lot is we would be out sometime, and kids would come up, and little kids, and they're fascinated with her chair,
Mhm.
and they'd want to talk to her about the chair, and their parents would be embarrassed and go, "Don't bother her, don't bother her, come on, come on, come on." And she
Mm.
said she would much rather have them ask her questions.
So that's great because many of us, maybe parents or have nieces or nephews that we take out to stores and go to all the places we go to. And so when they are curious, allow them to explore that curiosity. Maybe how can, as a parent or the adult in that situation, we help bridge that gap between the child's curiosity and connecting with that other person?
I think, if the person using it seems open to it, I think let them ask their questions, and then the parent can maybe um, uh, talk to them also and say, "Oh yeah, that's to help them talk. They don't talk like we do, but this is the way they talk."
Nice.
Because I know the people I know that are chair users say, the chair is part of who they are. And so they would much rather have people not pretend it's there, than to kind of go around it.
Yeah. So sometimes there's an elephant in the room,
Yeah, it's a
right?
white elephant in the room.
And it's okay for us to say, "Wow, that's an elephant in the room.
Yeah,
Let's talk
yeah.
about that." There's things we can learn from the elephant. So thank you, Richard. Hi to you. Richard says hi. Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac. Clients thought it was neat that Barbara Bush called your house. And so
Well, everybody knows how much I love Barbara Bush. I went, I went to the stage when I wasn't too crazy about the Bush boys being president, and man, they're looking better every day of my life now. But she called my house. My husband answered, and he said to me, "You're going to have to talk to them." They said it was the White House. And so she had a daughter who died of leukemia, and she had a son with dyslexia. And so I thought, if anybody understands, it's her. But I was actually, surprised. I was told later that the White House called the state board, who called our co-op, who called our school district, and they told me I had caused a lot of trouble. And I said, "Well, if anybody had listened to me with the 4 IEPs we had, I wouldn't have had to do that." So, but the thing is, she remains one of my heroes, and she always will. And I was in DC last year when she died, and so everybody was calling me to make sure I was okay because she died.
oh, how that's really cool. I mean, like Susie said, it's a phone call, a letter. We never know what impact we make on others when we speak up and speak out about the things that are important to
And
us.
you know what? If you don't know who your state senator and state representative are, find out or email me and I'll find out for you, because you need to forge a relationship with them now. So if something happens that you really do need something, or there's legislation out there that's important to you, then you will have a relationship and they will be able to say, "Oh, that's Richard. I met him one time."
And Melissa at Sertoma up in the Chicago area shares this. Once, while my family was on vacation, there was a child in a reclined wheelchair, and the family had a sign saying that it was a certain type of treatment and to ask about it. I loved this opportunity to educate my children. Yeah.
And that's a great way, and I think parents today, at least, are like that. They want their children in the community. They want them to be part of the community. And so good for that family for taking the first step and saying, "Please, please let me tell you what's going on here with this child. This is a child like your child. They just have, something else to deal with." My friend, I don't know how many of you have heard Patrick Schwartz speak. He believes everybody should be included in school and everybody should be in the workforce. And so when he got up to speak, the very first time I heard him some years ago, he got up to speak and he said, "I want to tell you about my friend Denny." as an attribute, my friend Denny has Down syndrome. So he sees disability just as of who you are, which is how I see disability. Like I have brown eyes and I have rheumatoid arthritis and walk with a cane, and that's just part of who I am. It's nothing bad and it's not good. It's just part of who I am.
It is what it is. And here's another really great story about learning to speak up and speak out and the attributes that we all have. This comes from Wendy. Thank you for sharing. My daughter has CP and is fully dependent on her wheelchair. We have taught her early on that people are curious and to encourage them to talk to her and ask questions because most of the time people aren't being mean by staring, but they're curious. So she always approaches them and asks them if there's something they want to know about her or her chair, and she is more than willing to answer their questions.
Well, good for her and good for you. And that's exactly what we should be doing. I think the disabilities that are the hardest sometimes are kids that have the non-visible disabilities, like autism many times, or the emotional disabilities. And so we have to be open to them too, and not be afraid to say if somebody with autism is like having a hard day, not be able, if people are staring, he does have autism or he does have ADD, and that's just part of his disability. So I think, that's where AT though sometimes comes in helpful with like the weighted blankets. They have weighted vests and all kinds of things now. So anyhow, again, thank you guys for coming. You've been wonderful. And don't be afraid to get a hold of either one of us if you have questions.
So here is Susie's contact information. We promised we'd share it. Susie Wood, Public Policy and Education Liaison for the Illinois Assistive Technology Program. They're located at 1020 South Spring Street in Springfield, Illinois. Her phone number, 217-638-8411. That's Susie's cell, and that's the easiest number to reach her at. You can see her email, swoods@ltech.org, and the website. And again, the motto of Illinois Assistive Technology Program, excuse me, is independence through technology. Our email contact information is info@selfadvocacyalliance.org. You can find us on the World Wide Web at selfadvocacyalliance.org. And you can find us and like us on Facebook. So on behalf of the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, the self-advocates, the groups, and the allies, Susie, I thank you so much for sharing your experience and expertise with us this morning.
I'm glad to. Anytime you need me to do something, you just give me a call. I'm glad to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.